Hello, my name is Ralph Thompson, and I'm part of the Early Modern Records team in the Collections Engagement and Expertise Department here at the National Archives at Kew. As a volunteer supervisor, I'd like to talk to you today about my volunteering project, which worked on the cataloguing of the State Papers Domestic George II in the series SP36. My heading image is the 1753 seal of the Duke of Newcastle, who served as Secretary of State continuously for 30 years and dominated British foreign policy until the mid-1750s. In the early winter of 2018, a small team of eventually 4 dedicated volunteers commenced the cataloguing of the final tranche of the State Papers Domestic George II, i.e. the period theoretically from 1748 to the end of the monarch's reign in 1760. While a proportion of this correspondence is written in French, the internationally recognized language of 18th century diplomatic correspondence, and the everyday preference of second-generation Huguenot émigrés in domestic matters, there is also a miscellaneous run of papers at the end, which date back to the late 17th century. Such as the petition, for example, of 2 financially stricken Catholic gentlewomen of Athelhampton, Dorset, to King William III, quote, living quietly and inoffensively and praying to be excused the penal statutes of £20 per month for non-attendance at Anglican church services, according to his declaration of 1688 on landing in England. And you will find this document in SP 36, piece 154, part 1, item 70. As a volunteer-orientated project, the team working with the Chromebox portals released 5,031 item-level descriptions of the contents of 57 volumes in the series SP36. The project has made Discovery Catalogue descriptions based on very brief early 20th century printed manuscript summaries available online for all to search. My next image is the frontispiece representation of Dr Cameron, brother to the famous Donald Cameron of Lochiel, and this is taken from the memoir The Life of Dr Archibald Cameron, who was executed at Tyburn, Middlesex in 1753. He was the last Jacobite to receive the death penalty. The series of records itself is extremely diverse and includes material on the post-45 rebellion, such as SP 36, piece 106, part 2, item 115, the case from 1748 of Charles Deacon, schoolboy ensign in the Jacobite Manchester Regiment. Deacon was captured along with his 2 elder brothers at the fall of Carlisle in December 1745. While the middle brother was publicly executed upon Kennington Common, the jury thought the prisoner's case, quote, so compassionate that they recommended him to the favour of the court to be transported overseas to indentured servitude in colonial Jamaica, as he was under 15. And here's a depiction of the celebrated Jacobite Jenny Cameron in Highland military habit. Having worked on both State Papers Military and State Papers Naval for the Jacobite Anniversary Project, the earlier cataloguing of SP36 was completed in 2015, although some standalone pieces are from a possible earlier date. This project very much aimed to fill in the gaps of the State Papers on the Discovery Catalogue as a research tool in itself, improving engagement and access to our 18th century collections. Structurally, the data created new items adding the volume and modern stamp numbers. On this slide, we have the updated Discovery Catalogue description in the lower notes field. And here are the browsed pieces from the first piece, 106, described at item level on the right hand side. And here's a discovery summary from the last piece, 163, which relates to a 1730s bill in French from merchants at Boulogne for the supply of fabrics and haberdashery. Matters of crime and punishment, which covers Georgian customs and excise investigations into smuggling, and assize court indictments are well documented. None more so than the material on the notorious Norfolk smuggler Samuel Eager in SP 36, piece 117, part 1. Eager, alias Hager, and commonly called Old York, was ultimately capitally convicted at the Old Bailey in September 1751 for aiding and assisting in the quote, armed rescue of one named James Holt, an outlawed smuggler. And here's a letter from 1751 relating to the discovery of a plot to escape from Newgate Prison in Southwark, Surrey. And it's actually complete with a drawing of a quote false key, that's the lower key, marked B. Trade and the North American colonies are very often covered. For example, SP 36, piece 107, part 2, item 65, concerns expenses for sundries that were owed by the Georgia Assembly at Savannah in 1749 to the part Yamasee interpreter and trader Mary Musgrove, who became an important intermediary between the tribes of the backcountry interior, such as the Muskogee Creek and Cherokee nations, and the English colonists. International diplomacy and major conflicts are also covered, with the signing of the Treaty of Aix-la-Chapelle, Aachen, in modern-day Rhineland-Westphalia, which ended the War of the Austrian Succession in April 1748. George II himself, moreover, as Elector of Hanover, was the last British monarch to command troops in battle at Dettingen in 1743. The collection also witnessing the outbreak of the 7 Years' War in 1756, which in reality was the first global struggle and involved all the great powers of Europe. Although it had already unofficially broken out some 2 years before in the disputed Ohio country. The war's campaigns, ranging from mainland Europe, North America and the Caribbean, to West Africa, India and the East Indies. My final image is a listing of commissions signed by His Majesty following the Battle of Dettingen, Bavaria, with 22 names, including James Wolfe, line 21, which is the second from bottom, as adjutant in Colonel Scipio Durora's 14th Foot Regiment. The volunteers, however, as a result of the lockdown, completed the cataloguing from home as they were given access to the subscription database of State Papers Online. Ultimately, the volunteer experience encompassed editing and formatting skills, 18th century paleography, and an overview of Georgian social history and politics. Overall, this was a really excellent achievement by my team, as the project was completed well ahead of schedule and in less than ideal circumstances. I really cannot praise their sheer commitment enough, particularly as regards wider research and French transcription work. I would also like to thank colleagues in the Catalogue and Taxonomy team for their help and advice. Thank you for listening.